starting the live, and so sad. We're gonna start again. So, I am Shanae Jones, and this is KNKY, which stands for Know the New Kinky You. And just know that I have started this live now for the second time, because at 10 o'clock, when I was supposed to start the live, I started it, but I started it on a different account that I had. But nonetheless, we're here, and thank you for all of you who are chiming in. I appreciate it. So, the lives last 24 hours, so just know that this is being recorded. So if you don't get a chance to watch it tonight or within the next 24 hours, it will be posted on YouTube. I posted a question a couple of weeks ago asking for people to give me commentary, give me questions that they had about things that they wanted to talk about sexually. And, two of the things that we're going to talk about tonight are about golden showers, was one of the questions that people wanted to talk about, and BDSM. So we're going to kind of bundle that up into fetishes. So one of the things that we're going to kind of talk about is, fetishes perhaps are not the most conventional of things. They are not things that some people embrace them. That's their life. That's what they're about. That's what they're into. And they have no qualms about it. Other people kind of, hold them close to their chest. They are not always as comfortable talking about the fetishes, the untraditional things that they perhaps are into. Let me preface this whole conversation by saying that there is no judgment when it comes to me, when it comes to people's sexuality. There's no judgment. I will hold reservation for people who are into children and into animals, because the biggest thing about sex and sexuality is consent. And if you can't offer consent, I can't support what you're into. I personally cannot. So there are a lot of things that people are into. So a fetish is a sexual desire where gratification is linked to an object, an item of clothing, a body part, or some type of sexual act. It's something that you are strongly into. A lot of people feel like fetishes are not things that they have control of. They're not things that they can kind of control. It's just embedded within them. It's almost like being heterosexual, homosexual. It's like you don't control it. It's just who you are. It's what you are. So let's talk about the types of fetishes that people have. Foot fetishes is a good one, where whether you are wearing shoes or people are licking feet, there are people that enjoy feet. There are other people who have no desire to touch feet at all. So, it again depends on what you're into. Rape fantasies. Rape fantasies are all about, for at least in my perspective for women, are all about letting go of that control, being taken, being dominated. And we'll talk about BDSM a little later, but it's really like that. You don't want to be violated to the point where someone you don't know is doing this to you. But a rape fantasy for a lot of women are where you have this desire to be controlled, but you want to do it in a safe manner. So rape fantasies are very common. I've done some research where there are people who are interested in threesomes, and not just regular threesomes, but and regular threesomes is a term, but regular threesomes versus threesomes with family members. So you have sisters, you have cousins, you have people who are related to each other. You want to have those intimate conversations and intimate relationships with others. Oral sex when she is on her cycle. So I said this before in my earlier post, like I think it's the red dragon, where someone's on their cycle, but there are things that you can do. So you can bathe depending on how heavy the flow is. You can decide to put in a tampon and focus on the clitoris area. You can do that. People are into that. Some people don't mind it. Some people are like, no, never. So again, depends on where you are in this level of likedness for oral sex while you're on your cycle. Exhibitionism. So exhibitionism is a thing where you're out and you're in the public eye. You have that possibility of getting caught. You just want to be in the moment, but you also don't necessarily consider the fact of all of your circumstances. So one thing in particular was about sex at a funeral. You have to weigh your situation and see what works best for you. But if the opportunity presents itself, okay, great. Let's see. Licking armpits and feet. So I would say I am personally less of an armpit person and perhaps more of a foot person, but you can go through and experience erogenous zones of the body that aren't necessarily typical. So for instance, we know that the nipples and the anus, perhaps the clitoris, the penis, those are obvious erogenous zones. But there are parts of the body that perhaps are not so much so obvious for you. The armpits are one. The bottom of your feet are one. Please consider that every part of your body, when licked and sucked and caressed correctly, is an erogenous zone. You have to keep that in mind. When you are talking about fetishes, BDSM is not necessarily a fetish, as it can be a swing between a fetish and a swing between a lifestyle. So there are those that embrace BDSM. They are the ones that have the whole room set up. They have all of the things, that the whips, the chains, the collars, there are rules when it comes to BDSM. It's a conversation, and this is BDSM in particular is something we're going to talk about more specifically, as a standalone topic. But as of right now, this is just a high level. BDSM is what we call erotic practices or role-playing involving bondage, discipline, dominance, submission, sadomasochism, power, humiliation, and control. It is something that can be a powerful release of power, as well as it can be something that can be a embracing empowerment factor where you are just that person that is running shit. So BDSM we'll talk about, but that is something that is a fetish perhaps for some people. Porn, you know, can be a very influential thing when it comes to sex and sexuality, because you know we see a lot of things in porn and then we're like, oh, this is something that I think I like, this is something I may want to introduce to my relationship, this is something, and you may not know how well to have that conversation. So again, something else that can be a standalone conversation about how to introduce new things into your sex life. So when you're talking about things that you see in pornography, whether it's pegging or going back to the fetishes, you know, blood and knife play, there are people who are interested in cutting themselves, which means, you know, whether they enjoy the sight of blood, the taste of blood, it can be very, very dangerous. But again, if BDSM is something that you're into, I promise you, I'm in the DC area. There are people that are local to you that should be able to explain to you and help you learn the proper techniques around BDSM. So in the DC area, I believe one organization called Black Rose. So, you know, feel free to reach out to them for any questions that you might have specific to BDSM. But of course, as your certified sex coach, you can always reach out to me for any questions that you might have. Urine, golden showers, and feces, scat. There are a lot of different terms, and again, all of these things won't be for everybody. So please don't take this as something that is a one size fits all. It's just trying to give you a glimpse of what the world of sex can kind of lead you to. So whether you are into watching it or having it on your body or in your mouth or in your body, you know, those things can kind of fluctuate again depending on what you're into. So there are some that believe, you know, when you're doing piss play, it is very relaxing, it's warm, but you know there are some suggestions that you drink plenty of water so that it's not yellow versus clear, it's that it has a decent smell to it, that you watch the food that you eat. When it comes to feces, again, be very, very, very careful. So in my research that I found a couple of things that I thought were kind of interesting that you might also find interesting, I'm not sure. But there's something called a Kentucky Klondike bar. Again, I didn't make this up. I didn't come up with these. They exist, so people do them. So a Kentucky Klondike bar is when you are penetrating someone with frozen feces. If you're into it, great. If you're not, I'm personally not, but if you're into it, great. There's also something called a Panamanian petting zoo, where you have taken food that is really not digestible and you have corn or nuts and you pick it out of your bowel movement and you are feeding it to people. Again, this is not anything I'm suggesting that you do if you're not already into it, but if you're into it, great, as long as your partner is. Keep an open mind. It's all about an open mind. So some people are into face farting. They are into the sensoriness of the smells of how farts smell. Again, not me, but if you are, More power to you. Be proud of what you're into. You can spit into somebody's mouth. That is a fetish. Fisting. And I've done this live twice now, although you probably have only seen it this first time. Fisting is when you take your actual fist, you or your partner, and you insert it into your vagina or your rectum. And there are people that can actually physically do this. I'm amazed by it. I didn't know that it was possible, but there are those that do. Throat fucking. Throat fucking is where you take where a penis goes into your mouth, and it goes into your mouth so deep that it reaches a level of saliva that is thicker and more pliable, I guess, because it's not as wet, maybe. I don't know. But there's a thing called throat fucking. People who are into vomit, if you they don't mind when you vomit on because of the throat fucking. You don't mind if they vomit on your penis, I guess. And choking is a favorite of mine. I'll be honest with you. I enjoy it. It's something that, I think that when people let go of the possibilities of just being in control, that they find something perhaps that they enjoy. So, with all of that being said, there are things that people do. There are things that people enjoy that may be for you, may not be for you. But the idea is to be open to the possibilities that exist and see what happens. If you like it, great. If you don't, now you know you don't, because you've tried it and you don't. So, I'm Sinead Jones. Follow me across all social media platforms. It's Instagram, it's Twitter, it's Facebook, at DOYOUKNKY. KNKY stands for Know the New Kinky You. Also visit the website. It's www.DOYOUKNKY. Subscribe to YouTube. That's where you'll see this video. If you don't get a chance, if you want to watch it again after 24 hours, it'll be there. I appreciate everyone so much. So I will see you again next week. Bye.